Hey everybody, it's Unlock the Middle Sunday night, part of the Fantastic Four PE session, finishing off Sunday here tonight, making sure that we grow together as a country PLN, making sure we're together learning from each other. And on Sunday nights, you all know that it's a time for us to learn from each other. And we have a great guest tonight. But you know what? Before we go into our guest, which is going to be a great, hopefully 45 hour, hold on tight. Let us know where you're coming from. Whatever part of the country, we need more people to interact with us because that's the only way we're going to learn. We're going to learn by the tools that you bring to the table. Today, we have an awesome guest today. We have Erik Francis, who will be presenting to us some of his knowledge. But you know what? You have knowledge in South Dakota. You have knowledge in Idaho. You have knowledge in Iowa. We need to learn from you. So please make sure that you follow us. And also, if you view this later on, drop in some information. Drop in what you're seeing, what you're doing at your campus level. Because all of us, every single last one of us, we're going through state testing right now, right? And are we not going through our team members feeling that pain, the long 2 years of this pain? We're feeling our kids also going down. You know what? The only way we're going to survive this is being stronger together and learning from each other. So hold on tight. Let us know where you're coming from. Part of the Fantastic Four. What do you think, Dean?
Principal Tovar, I don't think I could have done that any better myself. Hey, everybody, happy Sunday night to you. We're on Navigating Leadership number 61, and we have Erik Francis with us tonight. And Erik came on probably about a year ago, year and a half ago, and he had a session on questioning. It was a great session. And the conversation was just riveting. And when I left, I was like, there's so many things I didn't think of. So again, these nights are all about becoming a little better together. And that's why we do this, Josh. And, I have to say this up front. Chris is traveling with his family from Florida. He won't be with us tonight, but Chris, if you're listening out there, we miss you, buddy. I hope you had a great trip. Looking forward to having you back with us real soon, okay? Because those trips are where you make memories. So I'm glad you had a chance to do that. So again, we're on episode number 61 of Navigating Leadership. So you know what? I start thinking about this and I get a little excited for my week as well. You're right, Josh. We are just getting right through. We're in the smack dab in the middle of state testing. And you know what? Haven't had many major ripples, but at the end of the day, kids have a lot of resiliency. They're showcasing what they can do. Teachers are stepping up to the plate like they always do. And it's business as usual, which I always love to say. But again, in times where we need to be evolving. And I think that's where our conversation is going to go tonight, Josh.
I think so too. And right now, the best gift that we could give our team members, our kids, is that SEO love. We could also give them that time, but most importantly, knowledge. They need to feel supported. They need to know that we got their back and have their whatever kind of support we could bring to the table as administrators. It all comes down to bell instruction, making sure that we engage those kids and create that loving environment with the SEL. And I think that we have a great guest to do that tonight.
Well, let's do this. Let's bring Erik in here. Depth of knowledge. This is going to be a real good topic. Erik, great to have you with us tonight. Erik, for those who don't know you out there, you know what? We know you're on the circuit. You're out there giving professional development. You've got your books. You're doing all the things you need to do to help make us better. Give a little background about yourself so they can hear a little more from your perspective.
Sure, Dean. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me on today. My name is Erik Francis. I've been an educator for over 25 years. Started my career teaching in middle school, taught middle school English language arts. And then I taught high school. I was a site administrator for a bit, worked at the state education agency. And then 2012, I decided to break out on my own and provide professional development support through my company. It's called Maverick Education, Maverik, no C in Maverick. It's named after my daughters, Madison, Avery, and me. And I'm also a child of the 80s, so you can probably guess my favorite movie is Top Gun. And what I do is I provide professional development and support to schools. But that's changed since I started this. I started this 10 years ago. Actually, it's 10 years ago this year in 2012, where I started doing professional development. But even my professional development has changed, where what I'm delivering out there and the messages and ideas and strategies I'm trying to give out there, what I came up with was a message and strategy. We're saying my professional development that I provide is what I say is standards-based, socially, emotionally supportive, and student responsive. And those have become the focus and priority in education. They have been, but boy, this pandemic really, really shifted a lot of our focus and a lot of our emphasis. But what I'm trying to do out there is to show that there's a balance, because what I'm seeing with a lot of schools is that people are focusing on either or. And it's not an either or situation. Or they're saying, oh, we're doing SEL right now. No, you don't do SEL right now. You always do SEL. You've always been doing SEL. Well, we bought this SEL program. No, it's not a program. It's a philosophy. It's a practice. It's a process. Well, Eric, we're focusing on SEL. We're not going to focus on instruction right now. Wait a minute. Instruction is SEL, that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of discovery. So that's what I mean by my professional development is being standards-based, social, emotionally supportive, and student responsive. How can we use the standards that we need to teach and our students need to achieve, so not only so they can demonstrate proficiency, but also feel this sense of accomplishment, to feel this sense of discovery, feel this sense of, wow, I can do this. I learned this. I know this. Well, what else can I do? And how can we actually use those standards and our social emotional teaching and learning skills to really be responsive to students' needs? So that's how my professional development has become. And I'm using that with my questioning strategies for my first book. Now, that's a good question. My newest book is called Deconstructing Depth of Knowledge. I turned DOK. In fact, it's right, Dean. It's been a year since we talked. And we were talking, I think, right at the heart of the pandemic when I was writing that book.
Yep.
And what I did was I wrote that book not to think about what DOK is. It's been with us since the late 1990s, but what DOK could be. And what I did was I turned into a method and model for teaching and learning that hopefully is going to really take us on a new course in education. That's kind of when what I'm crossing my fingers on. I'm kind of hoping that that's what this book will become for everybody.
You say that. Hold on a second, Josh. My mind just went to something. You say that new look, that new evolution of where we need to go. And Eric, being a leader in a school, I've always understood the standards that we teach and how we teach them is everything that we do. But how do we evolve beyond that depth of knowledge? And we start talking those questions, the questions we talked about with you before, the bigger animal in the house here is the assessment, helping kids understand what they've learned. So I always go back to that, okay, because you got a numerical grade. I don't know what the hell that means sometimes based upon what kids are supposed to know and correlating back to understanding the standard. That's a whole different topic here. But I mean, I know which direction we have to go with this. And this is a really big conversation. So this could go in a lot of different ways in a real positive way for us too.
Well, one of the things you just said is assessment, okay? Do we call it assessment or we call it tests? Because they're not the same thing, okay? A test tells me what you can do on that day, on that snapshot. And three things happen with a test. You pass it, you fail it, and they both end up in the same place, in the trash. Doesn't matter with the kids. When he passes it, they look at it and go, cool, I passed, in the trash. Oh, man, I failed, in the trash. And the teacher goes, okay, we're moving forward. That's it. That's a test. But if you use it as an assessment, you don't use it as this thing that is basically summative and sometimes even punitive. You use it as something that's formative and informative and use it to say, where do we need to go next? And that's something I've even seen in my experience is that the kids realize there's no teeth in the test for them. They don't have skin in the game on it. It's not about them. They figured it out. The older kids have definitely figured it out. I could tell you my daughter, she told me a bunch of her friends threw the standardized test because it's not about them. It's about the school. It's about the staff. I just put this thing on Twitter, which I've been doing in a lot of my presentations now, where I said, how are tests viewed and used? And I show one side of school and I show one side students. On the one side, it's the poster of Jaws, where the girl's swimming and the shark's coming up, and you're either going to get bit by that test or you're going to get away. You're going to pass. The students, the other picture I have, there's a candid photo of Steven Spielberg hanging out like this with his sunglasses on in the mouth of the shark. That's how the kids are seeing tests. There's no bite, but they know that the teachers in the schools are getting bit by it because they know we're getting the letter grades. They know, oh, that teacher, that's going to get a poor evaluation. What's the worst thing that's going to happen to them? They're not going to get retained, okay, because we're not doing retention based upon performance. They're going to get extended learning time, especially if you have a Title I program, which they deserve. But that teacher, oh, man, they're going to have instructional coaches and us as administrators walking through, and they're going to have to, really focus on the assessed subjects. They're not going to go into more of the electives and everything, and that we're going to get that letter grade. And that letter grade, you know what that is? Bad publicity. Back in the day when it was excelling, highly performing plus, not yet performing, almost performing. We'll get there next year, we promise. Okay. that was hard to go and really understand what that is. But now your schools are getting A's, B's, C's, D's. In this world of standards-based grading where we're moving away from that, why are we basically grading schools with letter grades? And what does that letter grade mean? And you get that letter grade, and what you can do is you can actually contest your letter grade, and then the state will go, okay, well, we'll give you a higher grade because we'll change around the cut scores and everything. It's just a perfect mess right now. And I'm not in a school right now, and I really feel for everyone who's doing what's called testing, because that's what we're calling it, because testing's become sports. It doesn't matter how the Arizona Cardinals did this year. Those are my guys. They didn't get to the Super Bowl. Okay. I know you guys are from Boston. It doesn't matter that year. Then the Patriots went 19. What matters? They lost the Super Bowl that year. That's what's becoming. And the other thing is we're now testing kids in a natural hazard, which is a pandemic. Those scores are going to be reliable. I mean, that's what I'm hoping next year we all go into. This year, I know, come build back better, come back stronger. We were so gung-ho. And then we realized, wow, there's a lot of social emotional supports we need to start instilling in there. Okay, we've been reaching these kids for the last 2 years, and we've been successful. But now we need to reach and teach. My challenge I've been working with my school is, how can you make teaching and learning not just social emotionally supportive, but standards-based and student responsive? And that's what I'm doing a lot with the DOK levels. It's how I turn the DOK levels into an RTI multi-tier system support model.
Well, Eric, let's take I love what you just said, and let's just take a couple steps back, because we have a good number of people about to graduate. We have a lot of novice team members that were hired within the last 2 years, and they never went to a full training like all of us here to our central offices, and they always give us that DOK printout that was smudged, hard to read, and it was that nice little wheel, and everyone handed it out, and we did the butcher paper, and we went broke it down what each word means. I mean, obviously I'm showing my age with this, because it's been, like you stated, it's been a while, and we all, I don't know, in Texas we really went into that whole dissect the frog in regards to the wheel. But let's introduce this to people that are brand new, that haven't had the opportunity of being in central office with PD due to the pandemic the last 2 years, or brand new team members coming and getting hired. What is DOK? Not that elaborative, but what is DOK? And the wheel? Is it a functioning wheel? Is it an accurate wheel? Is it an inaccurate wheel? Let us know.
Well, let's start with what DOK is not. It's not that wheel. Okay. That wheel is completely inaccurate and inconsistent what depth of knowledge is. So let's refute the wheel first, because that's the only way really you're going to understand what exactly depth of knowledge is. The DOK wheel was introduced in Florida during the mid-2000s. Florida was one of the first states to use depth of knowledge as a criterion for their alignment studies between their standards, the FCATs, and the Sunshine Standards and their FCATs, their tests. Depth of knowledge was originally designed to be a criterion for alignment studies. You take your standards, you categorize it as a 1, 2, 3, 4. They're not levels, actually, they're categories. And then you categorize your assessment item as a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then compare them based upon their cognitive demand. Someone from Florida created that wheel and uploaded it to the internet and said, this is depth of knowledge. In fact, when I do my virtuals, and it's easy to do this in my office, I show people the evidence of where that wheel was derived from. This is Barbara Clark's Growing Up Gifted. It's a book that came out in the mid-'80s and was been basically multiple editions of it. This is the Bloom's Hot Wheel. This is the Bloom's Taxonomy wheel. The only difference between the DOK wheel and the Bloom's Hot Wheel is that this has 5 spokes and the DOK wheel has 4 spokes. So there's no difference. So if you ever thought DOK was just another way to do Bloom's, you're absolutely correct, because that's what's been perpetrated as. It's not depth of knowledge. Depth of knowledge is not about only cognitive complexity. It's about cognitive demand. Cognitive demand asks you, what exactly must students learn, and how deeply must students understand and use their learning in a certain context? That's what they mean by depth of knowledge, is everything that comes after the verb. So one of the things I explain about depth of knowledge is that it's the next step in unwrapping standards. And I know everyone right now is going like this and rolling their eyes and going, oh, really? Because even that way that's been portrayed. Circle your verbs, underline your nouns. Now you know what you need to teach. No, that's half the battle. Okay. After you do that, you got to ask yourself, what exactly are students thinking about and learning? So let's say I said, identify how literary devices are used in a text. First thing I do is I circle identify. That's the verb. Great. Put it aside. You know where that is in Bloom's. Maybe, because that's in multiple levels. What exactly am I identifying? Literary devices. Now, how deeply do I have to identify them? If it just said identify what literary devices are or identify literary devices in a text, that's DOK 1. But because it says identify how literary devices are used in a text or by an author, now it's a DOK 2 because I have to establish and explain with examples or use information and basic reasoning. If I want to make it a DOK 4, I'm going to say identify how literary devices are used in 2 or more texts written by the same author or within the same genre. Because now I'm looking at more than one text. Now I'm all the way up to a DOK 4. So again, it's always about what comes. It's not about the verb. It's about what exactly must students learn, how deeply must students understand and use their learning, and also in some cases, how many objectives must student achieve, and what's the DOK level of those objectives? Because the most cognitively demanding one, the highest DOK level, is the overall DOK level of the standard.
So how can DOK be that missing link right now? You just unpacked a lot of things for people to understand about it, okay? And I think you're absolutely spot on when you're saying it. But how can this be in a time that we're evolving? We're evolving. How can DOK, I don't want to say take the place of a Bloom's wheel, okay? I'm not saying that, but how can it be the leading indicator for us to move forward?
Well, Dean, I'm glad you said that because that's something I often get when I work with schools. Are you telling me I need to replace Bloom's taxonomy with the DOK levels? No. Okay. DOK is like a Title I program. It's supplemental to the instruction. Okay. So use Bloom's to find out what the type of thinking and kind of knowledge is. I'm not saying don't use that. I'm saying ask yourself, what exactly are students thinking about and learning? And how deeply must they understand and use their learning? That's that missing link. Because if I go to you in your classroom, let's think about this. We've all done observations. This is just traditional teaching. No one's doing anything incorrect or wrong. Okay, that's the thing I want to make sure that we're getting clear here. No one's doing anything incorrect or wrong. This is an evolution. It's basically going from swinging a baseball bat to this to seeing if it happens when I swing a baseball bat like this. Okay. What I'm saying is when you go into a classroom, people will say, what are you teaching today? Oh, I'm teaching theme with Charlie and Chocolate Factory, or I'm teaching how to add and subtract fractions. Okay, what's the standard say? What's the learning target say? Oh, that's over there. No, that's got to be forefront. You got to think about that like the finish line in a race. A race is defined by its finish line. When you tell me, today I'm teaching adding and subtracting fractions, or today I'm teaching theme and I'm teaching with Charlie Chocolate Factory. You're teaching the kids how to run, but you're not telling me if they're running a 50-yard dash or the Boston Marathon. Okay? That standard tells me what kind of race it is. And what you need to do, and again, that's one way DOK can do that. What exactly are you running? How deeply or how far do they have to run? Now, here's another way you can use DOK as an RTI model. Where are the students on the track? What can the students do? Here's the finish line. Can you do this? No. Can you do this? No. Can you do this? Yeah. Good. Let's start there. So DOK then becomes a strengths finder model instead of a deficit model or a gap model where we're looking at what students don't know. We're trying to find out what students can do and how they can learn. So that's another way. The biggest thing in which I did with DOK is I use DOK to strengthen and elaborate the 4 questions of a PLC, especially the one from the divorce. What do we want students to learn? That's the DOK level of the standard. How do we know that they're learning it? You assess to the DOK level of the standard, not just add it, to it. What happens if they don't learn it? You tier it to the DOK level where students are, and then you build upon their strengths to rise to, reach, and go beyond what I call that DOK bar. See how it's standards based and socially, emotionally supportive and student responsive? What do we do once the students have learned it? You take them to the next DOK level. And one of the things I'm really doing with my DOK trainings is I'm asking teachers, okay, do we believe all kids can learn? And your staff will probably tell me, oh, yeah, definitely. I go, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean they can learn what you teach them, or they can learn and you need to figure out how to reach them? You see, there's 5 ways to multiply multi-digit numbers. I can teach 4 of those ways. I can teach stacking factors. I can do place value. I can do the Windows method. I can even do lattice. That stick method that came out of Asia, I don't know how to do it. But what if that was the way the kids learn? What if that kid in your class goes, oh my gosh, I totally see that. That's my way. See, that's why I say I like to try to use music analogy as much as I can. Teaching's become like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Why? Because you give it away, give it away, give it away now. That's the main thing you do when you teach. It's not yours anymore. It's theirs. Okay? You are not teaching them the way. This is not the Mandalorian anymore. This is the way. This is a way. The kids, you want them to be like Frank Sinatra. That's my way. I did it my way. And the whole teaching and learning experience becomes Fleetwood Mac. You can go your own way. And now what you're doing is you're having the kids become the teachers. The kids are telling you this is how they did it. And that's the transferable knowledge. So that's what I mean, like DOK is the missing link. In my book, I talk about how DOK can help. There's not many people know there was a 6-level DOK that they retired. And it was for exceptional learners and English language learners, second language learners. That's where you put your IEP goals and objectives and your language objectives. I made one for gifted based upon the Rizzulli model by Joe Renzulli that talks about how you can do it for gifted and talented teaching. There's GDoc 1, which is acceleration. If you can do it at DOK 2, 3rd grade, good. Can you do it at a 5th grade, 8th grade, 10th grade? That's what some gifted needs. But some gifted and talented kids need enrichment. Can you do it at DOK 2? Here's the 5 different ways you can do it in math. Which way works for you and why? That's enrichment. So that's what I mean by DOK can be the missing link.
So, wow. This is one of those things where, no, this is great because you know what? It refreshes my dendrites on the past PD that I've had since, we really haven't had this consistently. And as someone that sits in my chair, I think it's crucial that I'm at my A game in regards to this, the delivery of instruction, because that's our main goal, being the main people sit in our chair. And I digress on that because I want to view what you just said again. I want to on the rebroadcast see this. Now, with all the noise that's going out there, and I call it noise. You name it, whatever you want to name it. The disease, parents, kids with TikTok challenges, SEL, no SEL, all that. There's stuff out there. How do you see right now with everything that you hear from your chair in regards to PD online, PD face-to-face? What do you see the status of education is right now, regardless of all the obstacles that are out there? What are you observing?
The great thing that came out of the pandemic is that we realized that we're going to need teachers to teach the kids. Because if you remember, there was a movement for a while. We don't need teachers. Let's just put them all on a computer and they'll go and learn. Yeah, well, 1.5 years in the pandemic or 2 years in the pandemic proved you still need a teacher. Okay. Yeah. I think the problem is education has really become too politicized. And, I think I just wonder whatever happened doing the best interest of kids, not doing what I think is in the best interest of kids. Okay. Putting my personal perspectives, putting my personal beliefs. I mean, I taught English language arts and I taught history. I taught all the subjects because that's how I came up with the questioning. We talked about that last time. I gave my prep hour and I used to give questions. I didn't want my kids to know and understand and really realize what I thought or what my feelings and beliefs were, because it wasn't about me. It's about them. It's about them drawing their conclusions, them defending their decisions. Now, I had some kids who had some ideas and thoughts and perspectives that really challenged even my feelings and my beliefs about things. And as a teacher, I tried to guide them by asking them, why do they think this way? What is driving there? What is the evidence that supports this? Well, what about this? What about that? And really getting them to reflect on. But I didn't want to say to them, no, your thinking is completely backwards and wrong, because that's their thinking. You know, that's how they were raised. That's how their parents are raised. It's not for me to agree. It's for me to just basically agree to disagree, but we still can be friends and we still can be colleagues and we can still do things and present it in a perspective that gets people thinking. You know, one of the things I used to do when I taught history, I used to ask, what's the positive and negative consequences of the Civil War? And everyone goes, well, negative? Yeah, what were the negative consequences of the Civil War? You mean bad? No, wait. Why are you interpreting that as bad? There were negative consequences, okay? The South had to completely change its whole social economic structure, okay? You now had people who are not property anymore. They're people. That's great. But where are they going to go? Okay, where are they going to go? Where are they going to live? You had indentured servants who are now becoming employees. Because let me tell you, that's the kind of problems our kids are going to face when they get older. Those social, political problems. Okay, this whole thing with the pandemic is a social, political problem. If you really want to get it to where we really want to make a real world thing, ask the kids, what should we do about the pandemic moving forward? How should we change society? It's called a wicked problem, which is also a DOK4, going back to DOK. And that's the type of real problems. I think personally, and I'm just going to give my opinion, and this is not going to be popular with these people who call themselves education advocates, get out of the way, okay? Stop politicizing our pedagogy, okay? Let us do pedagogy. Let us do practice. Get the politics and philosophy and perspectives out. Let us teach the kids. There's a majority of teachers out there who are silent because they want to teach the standards and they want to teach the students, and they want to teach the students first, of course, before the standards. But there's so many things that are just basically muddying the waters. And it's because all of a sudden this political and this philosophical ideologies come in there, and it's like, wait a minute, how can you make math racist? Wait a minute, that's not racist. Or you know, how can you say this? And it's funny because when I used to teach English language arts, I would teach the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and I say, why was Adventures of Huckleberry Finn banned? And they'd give the typical, you know, the popular reason, because of how many times they used the racial slur in there. I said, well, what about in the early part of the 20th century when it was banned because it promoted juvenile delinquency? That was the perception. Or when it was first published, it was banned because it promoted illiteracy because of the way it was written. So the bigger question is, how are the interpretations of stories and books and their controversy reflective of what's going on in the world at the time? You know, those are the kind of questions. But that's the thing. And this is not going to be popular opinion, I know that, but the education advocates who are making it more politicized and pedagogical, get out of the way and let us teach. You know, let us teach our standards. Let us teach our students. Let our kids think critically, think for themselves, and draw their own conclusions, but defend their decisions.
You know, I'm going back for a second because you had me at shifting from me to them, you know, from a teacher mindset, huge in this business that we're in right now. Because you know what, when you let go of what you think you have to control as a teacher, the learning really begins. Because those students are just clamoring to go. Just walk into any classroom where a teacher just orates for 60 minutes and there's minimal student engagement, okay? You don't want to see that anymore. It has to change. But going back to politicizing education, like right now, it's a business. Education is a business. And it's sad because the skills that these kids need when they graduate from high school are not going to be connecting with the needs of the workplace. We know that. Okay. Yes, they need to know how to read, write, and solve problems. Okay. Understood. Got that. Check all those boxes. But we need to be thinking something outside the box now. We can't be waiting.
Well, it's funny you say that's about a business, because what if I told you that education as a profession and system is the only profession and system that bounced backwards from the pandemic? It didn't move forward. You know?
Elaborate on that a little bit for our listeners out there. Well, give a few examples of that.
And I know, and as people are going like this, And if
That's
you're
true.
gasping and clicking your tongue, I'm not talking to you. Okay. But let's look at this more of a generalization. Okay. Let's think about restaurants. Restaurants never, ever, ever would have considered doing takeout before the pandemic. Okay. Now, takeout is a part of their practice. And a lot of reasons why they didn't do takeout is because they didn't have the money or they didn't have the insurance to pay for drivers. But now you got Uber Eats. Now you got Postmates. Now you got Instacart who will do it for you. It's funny because a friend of mine, Paula Maker, who's a great educator, does a lot with RTI at work. She was telling me her husband owns a restaurant and telling me that sometimes that can reflect bad on the restaurant because the Postmates person delivers it, with half hour later, it's cold. That reflects on the restaurant, but that's another issue they're facing. But that's how restaurants move forward. You'll never, ever watch movies or see movies the same way again because of the pandemic. See, when the pandemic hit, all the theaters shut down and the movie studios, they had all these movies on the shelf. And I think Warner Brothers, what they did was they took a bold move. I think they realized that their slate of pictures that they were going to release was going to be terrible. And what happens is it costs a lot, not just to make a movie, but market the movie and distribute the movie. And the whole thing is that basically it goes to the theater and then 90 days to 120 days later, it's streaming and then DVD and then cable and then the networks or cable and broadcast networks. But what Warner Brothers did, they created a subscription service. And I think they realized that they had a bad slate of films, Wonder Woman 84, The Suicide Squad, The Matrix Resurrections. And they said, what if we release it as a subscription service and people get to watch it at home? And people go, oh, no one want to watch the movies at home. Yeah, they did. And they bought the subscription service. And with the subscription service, they said this, okay, Wonder Woman 84 stunk, but there's all these other things going on there. Or like a gym membership. Oh, I forgot I have it. I might as well keep it. And that's what I think they realized. And I think also they were innovative because when Dune came out, Dune was a type of movie you had to see in the theater, and they gave a choice. Do you want to see it on HBO Max or do you want to see it in the theater? You could have choice. And that's the other thing, choice. That's how they choose. Now what's going to happen is this. You're going to have what Ben Affleck called the IP movies, and he won't do anymore. Those are the big budget movies that are going to go into the theater. That drives your studio. That's the blockbusters, like Marvel movies or the DCEUs or the Rock, big blockbusters, or Fast and Furious 10. They're going to go into theaters. You're going to have the mid-sized movies that are going to go into the theaters, but also be released at home. So you have a choice. Okay. And then you're going to have the smaller pictures that are going to go just released to like Apple TV or Amazon. And I think also studios, they realize, they go, okay, we're going to get a big box office the first weekend, but because of word of mouth, it's going to stink and we're going to lose money. That's what would have happened to Wonder Woman 84. That's what would have happened to Coming to America 2. And I think Paramount said, this thing stinks. Let's just put it on Amazon Prime. We got the built-in marketing. We get the built-in distribution. We'll get money and a profit on the subscription and we'll make our money back. But everyone's moved forward, but not education. We're doing standardized testing in a non-standardized situation. The perfect thing we could do is that we have leaders who are brave and bold and basically say, you know what? You can succumb to the narrative or you can control the narrative. And the narrative is we got to hold kids accountable. We got to give them standardized tests. Fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to control the narrative. Everything starts this year. No kid is grade level because they're just coming into that grade level. So next year, no kid's a sixth grader, no kid's a seventh grader, no kid's an eighth grader because they've never been. We use that standard to say this is the finish line. This is what it means to be a sixth grader, seventh grader, eighth grader. Now, where are you on that finish line? RTI, your instruction. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, modification, extend it. If we use that, I believe all kids will go be grade level, or at least 80 to 90% of the kids will be grade level. That's what I did as a teacher. I used the standard. I figured out where the kids were and basically built upon their strengths so they can rise to reach and go beyond that standard.
2 words, voice and choice. And Josh, before you go, that is the evolution of the classroom.
Yep.
Voice and choice, student voice and choice.
Yep.
Once you embed that into what you're doing, things begin to grow. Go ahead, Josh. I cut you off.
Right, and that's pretty much piggyback on what you just said right now, Eric. How do you foresee, or how could you envision classroom instruction going on with DOK to strengthen and support the not only the teacher providing the lesson, but also strengthen the emotional, the academic success of a student? Because all that ties in. If I don't get it, I'm going to tune you out the first 3 seconds. I'm a
Right.
neo student. I just came from another country, and I don't get the language, and I don't, and the way you're delivering the instruction, because you're very stoic, I just tuned you out. There's so many barriers prior to the pandemic, and now during it, it just has enhanced more. So how can DOK help out the delivery of instruction to ensure that we try to ensure 100% success of engagement and also providing a positive environment for the students?
Communication's key. That's the big thing. We just don't need to have kids demonstrate. We need to have kids communicate their learning. So you mentioned about second language learners. So my first year of teaching was with second language learners in math. Okay. That was my first year of teaching. And I was not a math teacher. I was an English language arts teacher. And unfortunately, where I taught, they didn't have the kids for enrollment in the beginning of the year. So last hired, first fired. And my principal said to me, if you want to stay, I can give you 2 English language arts sections and 2 math sections. And I said, I'm not a math teacher. He said, don't worry, I'll write a letter. So I taught my first math section like the way I was taught, because that's what we do as teachers. Let's just face it. We teach the way we were taught, and we teach what we understand. And that's okay. Okay. That's okay, because that's the way things work, the way things are. Okay. My second math class, I'm teaching the math, and none of the kids are understanding me. And it looks like not because they understand what I'm teaching, but they don't understand like I'm speaking a foreign language, because I was. Because finally one of the kids raised their hand and said, Maestro no comprende. And I said, does anyone comprende? And they all went like this. Okay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is, and I went to my principal. I go, that math class you gave me, the kids can't speak English. He goes, I forgot to tell you. I said, I don't speak Spanish. I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in upstate New York. I'm closer to Canada than I was to Mexico. I took French. If they can parlez-vous français, we're okay. But I don't habla español. You know, I knew one phrase, tengo sueño, la cocina es cerrada. I'm tired, the kitchen is closed. Okay, why? Because the guy I worked with, I was a manager of this campus bar, and he was my chef. And every time 10 minutes were closing, people come in and go, can we have some fries? And he goes, tengo sueño, la cocina es cerrada. I go, what are you saying to them? So I know you're not getting in trouble. He goes, I'm tired. He said something else. He taught me all the way. So I'm teaching like the way I was taught, which is top-down, traditional, direct instruction. The kids are not understanding it. They call me every name in the world in Spanish, and I know what they all are, and they all start with P, incidentally. So what happened is finally I said, I put the standard on the board, I put a problem on the board, and I said, what are the words, terms, and details you don't know, understand? And they were very hesitant. I had my brave student in my class who said alligator. And I said, what? He goes, alligator. And I go, what do you see an alligator up there? He walked up the algorithm and he said, alligator. And I taught him how to say it, and I taught him how to ask it as a question. Ask the kids, what is it you don't know and understand? How could you phrase it to me as a question? You know, children ask questions between the age of 2 and 5, about 40,000 between the age of 2 and 5, all to their mother. And they'll ask about 300, 400 a day. And when they go to school, they stop asking questions, because now it's still how adults and children interact, but now it's the adult who's a teacher who's asking the question, and the kids got to answer correctly. And they're turned off because there's too much stress, there's too much anxiety. What if we ask the kids, what is it you don't know and understand? How would you phrase that to me as a question? And they give you the vocabulary words. You make student-centered, friendly vocabulary words. If you can explain it in your own words, you don't have to write it in your vocabulary, student-centered vocabulary workbook. If you can't explain it, you need to put it down and you need to put it there, because communication and synthesis of communication, of writing, is how kids learn. You got to see it, you got to speak it, you got to write it down, and now it's yours. And if we had kids do that, that's what they take into tests. They don't remember stuff. They remember experiences.
That's right.
The reason why we know how to read, write, and do the math. If I said to you, who taught you how to read? Who taught you how to write? Who taught you the math? You can name the name. Okay. And that's why you can do it. But if you say something like, well, who taught you about ratios? Huh? What? Because you never really got that. You never really had the experience to think about it. Okay. What are we doing to give kids experiences? What are we doing to give experiences that they can take it with them? Okay. Again, be the Chili Peppers, Red Hot Chili Peppers, be Anthony Kiedis and Flea. You give it away, give it away, give it away now. It's now theirs because they'll go to that test or they'll go to that assessment and they'll say, this is like when I did this in Mr. Francis' class. And they'll go, oh man, this is like when I did this in Mr. Francis' class. He made me do this. Oh, that's how you do it. See what I mean? Make it encouraging. You know, my friends Rick Jetter and Rebecca Coda wrote a great book a couple of years ago. I really think people should rediscover. It's called Let Them Speak. And it's about giving students that voice and choice. And I think, you know, a lot of people got to, you know, put books out there about that. How can we get the kids to talk? How can we get the kids, if they're going to go like this, how can we break the way the kids that talk to us one-on-one in person? But also, how can we get the kids to talk to us on here? What if we did homework and said this? Hi, I'm Erik Francis. Today I'm going to tell you how to fluently multiply multi-digit numbers using the standard algorithm. I recorded on a video, I recorded on a TikTok, I recorded on an Instagram, YouTube, bada bing. I sent it to my teacher. There's my homework. Think about it that way. You know, let the kids speak, because I'm telling you, they're talking and they're not talking positively about what is in learn. What'd you learn in school today? Nothing. Of course you didn't, because you got this learning target up on the board that says, I can fluently multiply multi-digit numbers using a standard algorithm. What is that supposed to mean? What'd you learn in school today? How can multi-digit numbers be multiplied using a standard algorithm? Or how could the standard algorithm be used to multiply multi-digit numbers? They remember questions because they answered them. That's the way we get kids talking, and that's the way we get kids learning.
Erik, when you take your show on the road and you're doing your PD, what are the biggest challenges you're up against, man? Because I love what you're selling, and you're selling what I call the center of where we need to be. You really are. But what are your biggest challenges?
Biggest challenges. Now, I want to think about how I can say this. My biggest challenge is a system that resists change. You know, my biggest challenge is this is the way it's always been done. My biggest challenge a lot of times is pedagogy, where basically I get teachers who tell me, oh, they're too young for that. No, they're not. According to whom? I mean, I have a book up there called Yardsticks that tells me what a child can do. And I believe every child can do anything if you give them the right opportunity. So resistance of the system to change. Resist pedagogy as an obstacle, being that they're too young, or, you know, a lot of times teachers experience, you know, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what works. Okay. I don't dismiss your experience, but these kids are not, and I know people are going to roll their eyes. We keep on saying this. These kids are nothing like we've ever seen before. No, these kids are nothing like we've ever seen before, because we have not seen kids who have come out of a pandemic. Okay. The only kids that we can compare our kids to right now probably are the kids of the Great Depression. Okay, because what happened was their lives were completely turned upside down. One day dad is working and mom's taking care of everyone in the house, and you got this roof over your head. The next day you're living in a basement with no heat, and your dad's selling apples or trying to get a job down on the docks. Okay, that upheaval. These kids, their lives have been upheaved. And a lot of them have resilience, and we need to stop blaming the pandemic. That's the other thing. Oh, because of the pandemic, okay, you're right. But that can't be our excuse anymore. Because guess what? Here's some positive things that came out of the pandemic. We had kindergartners who basically were resilient and knew time management, and they knew they had to turn on their computers at this time, be alert at this time. And we had good teachers out there who went, okay, guys, lesson's over. You got 5 minutes given to me. This is my cat. This is my action figure. This is my mom, you know, and knowing how to manage things like that. The other thing the pandemic revealed is that we've been standards-based learning since the 1990s, but really we're still teaching stuff like that thing I told you. And the other thing is that the resistance is change. Change is painful. Change is hard. And the other thing that the thing that our system does, it goes, no, you need to do this year. This needs to happen this year. No, this is going to take time. DOK, questioning, all these instructional shifts we're all talking about, standards-based grading, all these instructional shifts, they're not Band-Aids on an amputation. And we got to stop doing professional development like we transplant trees. Okay, oh, we got this big hole here in this root. We got to plant the tree. We're going to put differentiated instruction there. Well, that didn't work. Let's uproot the tree and put this in here. We're doing literacy across the creek. Well, that didn't work. Okay, so I know SEL. Boom. Okay, that's not working. Also, we got people over there throwing rocks at the tree. We got to uproot that. We got to plant seeds. The changes in education are not going to come from the federal department. It's not going to come from the state department. It's not even going to come from the district office or the principal. It's going to come from the classroom, the teacher. And I see that in our teachers in college. I just had the opportunity to speak in front of teachers at ASU, these kids who are juniors and seniors, and talking to them. And they are hungry to learn. And I was talking to them about all this stuff. And I was talking to them about DOK. And they got it and they loved it and they figured it out and they couldn't wait to teach. That's the thing. We need to open our minds and free our minds. I know that's kind of went into a whole big thing, but I really wanted to say this because I want people to know that I respect, and a lot of people do PD, we respect what teachers have gone through for the last 2 years. And you're doing it, you're great. But now we got to buckle down and we got to change. And it's going to be painful for us, okay? It's going to be painful for the adults. Adults are not changeable a lot of times. Children are malleable. We need to go in with an open mind. When I'm working with my schools next year, I'm saying, guys, we're rebooting the matrix. I'm going to give you a choice. You take the strawberry, you realize what that basically the truth behind the matrix and own it. You take the blueberry, you got to accept the way it is and live in the matrix. Trying to do it with not red pill and blue pill where it can be a drug allegory. Okay. Then I deal with the people. I'm allergic to strawberries. Okay. Well, I'll get you an apple. All right. So that's the thing. Be bold and brave next year. You live in a matrix. You're living in this situation. You're either going to walk because the society and the machine has made it the way it is, or you're going to be Neo and you're going to fly and you're going to do amazing things.
Hey, so Richard Allen made some great points about not teaching math in silos, working towards experience and learning through math through experiential learning. He's absolutely correct. I just left that up there for a while for everybody because you know what? Those are things that people have to walk out of their comfort zone and allow to happen in the classrooms. Erik, before Josh closes up for us, how can people contact you, Erik? Talk about just your books. Where can they find your books? Things of that nature. If they want to get you to speak, how can they get in contact with you?
Well, my books are available at 2 different publishing companies. Deconstructing Depth of Knowledge, a method and model for deeper teaching and learning was just published by SolutionTree. It's been a great experience working with them. So if you go to solutiontree.com/truedok, you'll get the access to the book. It's also on Amazon. Now, that's a good question, how to promote cognitive rigor classroom questioning. That's through ASCD. Again, it's also on Amazon. If you want to contact me, you can go to my website. It's www.maverick, MAVERIK, education.com, or connect with me at Twitter at Maverick, MAVERIK, EDU12, or email me. It's Erik, ERIK, at Maverick, MAVERIK, education.com. I'm really looking forward. I'm looking forward to getting out there for professional development. And it's kind of like a funny thing I say, and someone said this to me on my PD, Erik, when you do PD, you don't take us to church, you take us to school. Okay. Where I'm not going to come in and be like, everything is awesome. No, it's not. Okay. I really want to know you to discover who you are as a teacher, and I want to help you discover that. And it's going to take time, but being there, it's not just professional development. It's providing the guidance support. I mean, one of the things I'm doing with my PD is I'll get calls. I'll be honest. Can you come in and do a PD? Okay. So when you want me to do it? Okay. We want you to do it 2 hours on a Wednesday. Okay. Well, how about this? I'll come and do it 2 hours on a Wednesday as a tier 1, but the next day I'll stay for a tier 2 and tier 3, where I'll meet with your teacher grade levels, your PLCs, or one-on-one, and talk to them how they can do that. So that's something I've done to structure my PD. How can I tier that? And it's about the relationship, not the rock show, as I show it. When I say the rock show, I'll come in, play my greatest hits. You'll be entertained, and then I'll go back on tour. No, it's about building relationships.
I love it. Josh, kicking it to you, my friend.
This is totally a home run, as Principal Cafela says, Erik. It's a great job. I mean, I thank you. Me as an educator, I love the knowledge, just refreshes you. Like you said, we got to get back on focus. The best thing that the best gift we could give kids is a great experienced and well-armed teacher in the classroom. That's the best thing we could ever do, is to ensure that our team members, when they're in there, they have the best tools, the best modern tools, so that a child can be successful. And I'm tired of people saying in the 21st century, we've 2 decades in the 21st century. Stop saying that. It's about making sure that they're engaged, bell to bell instruction, and it avoids all those TikTok challenges, because you know what? We've allowed them with those tools so that kids can learn. Those kids like me that are EL students that come from somewhere else, we need to arm those educators, because our students EL are going all over the country. So you brought some awesome hits today. We really appreciate what you brought to the table. I highly suggest that all of you that are watching us tonight, you share this broadcast, and please make sure follow Erik. He's bringing great knowledge to all of us to ensure student success, because that's why we're not in the history business, we're not in the math business, we're not in the science business, we're in the kid business, we're in the people business, and we need to make sure that we provide them with all the support. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, Dean.
You got it. You got it, man. I'll tell you. And Erik, thank you, man. The second round was even better than the first, and I love the first session. So again, as Josh said, reshare this out, retweet it out, because this is how we get better together. And don't be afraid to reach out to Erik. I can tell you a quick story. We reached out to him right away. Lickety split right back to us. First time, second time. So you know what? He's willing, he's able, and he wants to share out. And these are the things that make us better. Okay. So again, Erik, thanks. Last words, Erik. Anything you want?
Just, you know what? How can you control the narrative? How can you control what you do? You can't control the world around you. You can only control how you live in that world. You can't control what the state demands you to do. You can't control the students that come in your room. You can only control the experience you provide. That's the big thing.
And work on being the best you can possibly be. Say that
Most
every day to kids. Define what that looks like. Hey, guys, we're running out of time. 52 minutes into this. A great session again on a Sunday night. So for everybody listening out there, thank you so much. Thursday night, we'll be back with the Red Zone. We'll see what's happening there, Josh. You're always on top of that. But we'll get some information on that out on Twitter. But other than that, guys, have a great week. Erik, stay on if you could for a little bit. And we're going to just sign off right now. Have a great week, guys. Enjoy, and make yourself proud of what you do.